Hello, everyone. Welcome to, if you are a Patreon doing the most tier member, the February Cards and Channeling Meetup, and welcome everybody else to the monthly read, which is the first half of the Cards and Channeling Meetup. The second half is individual card pulls that I do for everyone at the Doing the Most tier on my Patreon, which is actually the most affordable way to get a reading from me. I am back. Ideally, my sound is much better than it's ever been. I'm working with a mic now, folks. I've upgraded my life. And we are reading for the monthly read. So let's see what eclipse season has in store for us. Let's see what Venus retrograde season has in store for us. And then we already know Pisces season is about being attuned to your feelings, ideally not too far in them, but definitely connected to them. You know what I'm saying? So let's see who wants to be read. Ooh, none of the usual suspects so far. Oh, watch out here. How about you? Nope. Any of you? Okay. Nope. You. Okay. Any other cards? One deck. Okay. It's one deck today, folks. And that deck for all six cards is going to be the Tarot of Gemstones and Crystals. Like a rock. Okay. So let's get into it. And a card fell out on its own, so I'm just gonna assume that card wants to be in the mix. It does. All right. March, give us the good news. You know what I'm saying? Give us the news from the dimensions we actually want to be a part of. Give us the news that allows us to not be mired in the shenanigans. Okay. And give it, let's see, that might be all the news. I was like, you asked. Okay. So let's see. These are the key cards. They came out together. Okay, we're ready to go. So, as you may know, and if you don't, if you're new, this is a six-card spread, and it's read down and then it's read across. So what we read down is two columns with two cards, four cards total. The first column is the speak column, like my tattoo. Yes. And the second column is the listen column, like my tattoo. And the last two cards are the key cards, either the skeleton key that unlocks all the doors or the keystone that's holding up the whole building. And we read those both down and across. So let's see what March is speaking into us. This is the card that shot out when I took the deck out the box, and it is the Two of Wands. This is a big theme right now, I gotta say, because the truth is that a lot of people have settled into ideas of reality, lifestyles, personalities, identities that do not satisfy them. Okay. And so when we see the Two of Wands in the Rider Waite, we see an affluent person on their balcony. All the luxury is behind them. The city is below them. And yet they're not looking at their luxury. They're looking at the world. They're looking at the outside. They're trying to do something else. Okay. So Two of Wands, of course, if you know a Pisces, oftentimes they are doing the most. So doing something else is part of doing the most. Okay. But also with the Two of Wands, there's a sense of adventure and there's a sense of not feeling like we're aligned in community, right? Because our wands is our relationship with the group. So when I see the Two of Wands, I'm like, okay, this is good because you have a hankering, you have a desire for adventure, you want to go try things. However, are you going to give yourself permission or not? Because we know by the Three of Wands, the permission has been given. But what I see from this first Two of Wands is like there's an inclination, and the inclination is often the sign, especially as we shift into the age of Aquarius, right? We're not dealing with age of Pisces shit like School of Fish, 7,000 synchronicities, everybody with like mindedness. We're shifting to the age of Aquarius, volatile, individualized, radical human connection that is also somehow struggling on an individual level. So, with the Two of Wands, it's very important that one, the mind, the body, and the emotional intelligence are working as a team. Okay. Because if the mind and the body want to be elsewhere and the feelings make that a bad thing, then we're in a situation where we don't give ourselves permission to align the realities of our intelligences. So that's not going to work. And then Pisces season, of course, it's about passion, desire, pleasure, these things. So there's also a quality here, which is like, are you as passionate, as joyous, as tapped in to your existence as you can be? And if not, what community is not aligned and why are you still affiliating with that community? Is it family? Is it job? Is it communities in the sense of like the neighbors? Is it required on a certain level? Or is it something you're settling for that you have now told yourself in your mind as a narrative that you have to settle for because XYZQP, right? As opposed to saying, I don't want to settle for this. So now I'm going to use my mind and my emotional and physical intelligence to make a plan, an exit plan, so that I don't have to settle for this, right? Now, on the speak side, under the Two of Wands, we have my G, the Hierophant. Let's see, which is diamonds. Diamonds. Okay, I was just singing this song the other fucking day. Okay. First of all, the Hierophant is my card in the tarot. Okay. And also it is a card about learning through osmosis, but also recognizing that the the answers are in you and that the knowledge that you require is going to come from your experience, which also is going to come from your perspective. I did a rewrite last night at the witching hour because I happened to be up at 3 a.m. because you know your girl cannot sleep around the new and full moons. And this is what whatever guide was talking to me. I call them the curious ones because they're always having me like inquire about questions. So this is the message from them that is aligned with our speak side and with the Hierophant. It says, sound judgment is the result of the participation of all the senses at your disposal. Right? Sound judgment is the result of the participation of all the senses at your disposal. Because of religiosity, there is a negative social conditioning that senses are bad and that to be fully tuned into them creates an insatiable, perverse, and abusive person, right? This person always gives over to their feelings and they're abusive and they're terrible, right? However, those people haven't given themselves over to their senses. They've become fixated on sensations. Okay. One is cause, the other is effect. Pursuing the effect will not get you closer to the cause or in more control of the cause. The cause is determined by engagement with circumstances, and circumstances are a matter of perspective, right? The cause is not linear or one dimensional, which is why it's not capable of delivering the same outcome or effect every time. What does this say? Okay, I'm like trying to read my literal handwriting, looking at this shit. Like, along an infinite spectrum, a lot of y'all look alike, okay? But that doesn't mean you are the same. Similar circumstances do not uniformly beget similar perspectives. One may be perceived as the same cause. One thing can be perceived as the same cause and deliver vastly different effects, right? So then I go on to write other things. I got to write this whole thing out. But basically, the idea that senses are bad is actually you're mistaking senses with sensations, right? Senses make you feel more present, more grounded, more equilibrium, more resonant, more yourself, more alive. Sensations are effects of the senses that you are disturbed by and distracted by, as opposed to returning to what are my sensibilities about this right now. Now, of course, you cannot have sensibilities if you do not have emotional intelligence. You can only have sensations. So there's a quality in Pisces season that it's like, yeah, you about to feel these motherfucking feelings, okay? No apologies, okay? Sorry, not sorry, okay? And also with that wands, like in the right community, there will be a container for the spectrum of the infinite emotions that you're going to go through. And that Hierophant is like, and those communities will be self-evident because of how they respond to you, right? And by the way, just because you see a community supporting someone who you like or appreciate doesn't mean that community is for you. Okay. So it's also like, don't associate those you like with what you think is for you. If it's mutually agreed upon, if it's consensual, then that will be evident. And that's the Hierophant, that you have to wait for the evidence, but the evidence is you living your life and seeing how life responds to you. Because we are talking major arcana, okay? We're talking spiritual purpose, existential purpose, your relationship on a level as a being in the cosmos as a human at this time, okay? So it's multidimensional too, of course, because the Hierophant is working on several different dimensions and frequencies. On our listen side, nothing wants to change. Kurt said what it said. So on our listen side, our first card, my old friend, the this light is a hater. The Ten of Swords, which in this deck is Smoky Quartz. Now, you know I say the Ten of Swords is the medic card. We go into a bad place to do a good thing, okay? That's also called draining the swamp, okay, Americans? That's what's happening right now. We're in a bad place, doing a good thing, called calling out the bad things. And by bad, you know I mean negatively polarized. I do not mean evil. I don't believe in evil, although I'm sure it exists somewhere far the fuck away from me, okay? Now, Ten of Swords is also a graduation, and it's a graduation from the swords. So this is good. This is like, oh, I was doing mental gymnastics, or I was trying to talk myself or over intellectualize a situation. And now I have just come to Jesus about it. You know, I have hit the rock bottom. Shit has hit the fan. My back has been between a rock and a hard place, you know? So there's a point where, you know, I think of it as the scene in Jumanji when, what's his name in Jumanji? Is it Gary Oldman? No, that's a white man. Let me look at the cast real quick so I don't misrepresent. David Alan Grier. Okay. So when David Alan Grier is trying to figure out what's happening in the town, and the monkeys have broken into his cop car, and he's like trying to drive it around, and it's all humpy dumpy, and he parks the car and he leaves the car, and then that plant that is from Jumanji comes and grabs his car, and it bends it in half, and he has his gun out. There's a moment where he's like, you know, like he gave up, and he was like, this shit is so absurd. Fuck you. Like, yeah, do it. Take what you want. Have the position. Decide that I'm not shit. Leave. Fire me. You know, quit. Move out. Right? It's that point where you're just like, whatever. Do whatever the fuck you're going to do, because I'm just going to have to deal with it. Right? Now, sometimes we think of that as rock bottom, but I like the term coming to Jesus. Okay? Because Jesus was like, you are not what you say you are. You are not doing what you said you were doing. This establishment is not holding the role that it says it fulfills. So there's a quality in the Ten of Swords where you stop lying to yourself, but you also stop feeling bad about the truth. You feel more equipped to deal with the brutality of the reality than you do to be in the delusions of that you've been choosing previously, which is, this is fine, everything's all right, I can live with this another few years, like I want to be this person, or whatever else you might be lying to yourself about. So the Ten of Swords were graduating from, you know, like lamenting the wound to treating it. And that's called growth, my G. So on our last listen card, which also doesn't want to change because this pendulum's like, bitch, I said, ooh, no one's favorite, especially a Pisces. Temperance. Temperance. Okay, so I have tended, like recently I've pulled this card a few times, and I was laughing because I was watching Tatiana Tarot's Timeless Tarot on YouTube, and she was like, Temperance is a card I'm appreciating, and then she stopped herself and she was like, I'm lying, you know, I'm learning to appreciate it. Okay. But what I can say about temperance is, of course, we think about it as like abstinence because of the temperance movement, right? And abstaining from liquor. Of course, you can think of it in that way, abstaining from your vices or like Easter, giving some shit up for Lent or whatever the fuck. But I think of temperance these days as pacing and making sure that your pacing is aligned with the circumstances, right? That you are not missing any opportunities, that you are aware and prepared and ready and willing at the time of opportunity. And so pacing is like, obviously, what is the parable of the tortoise and the hare, right? Like you can't just be speedy, 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 speedy all the time. Like eventually you're going to have to rest, and it could be the lack of pacing that when you're resting, somebody that you thought was way behind you catches up to your ass because you didn't pace yourself, and they did. They were going at the rate, they were moving at the rate of their transformation. And that's something I've also been talking about recently. Moving at the rate of your transformation makes you feel like you're in what Bashar calls, I guess if you don't know, Bashar is one of my teachers. He calls it Phoenix time. And Phoenix time is like, hi, puppy. Phoenix time is when you're moving at the rate of your transformation. And it's like when you have water dripping and a strobe light that is pulsating at the same frequency that the water's dripping, and the water looks like it's frozen in time. So Phoenix time is when you're moving at the rate of your transformation, and so things look like they're actually still, because you're no longer behind or ahead or whatever of what you prefer in your life to happen. And so every day feels super full. An hour feels like an hour, a day feels like a day. Like the time isn't slipping by you at all. And you're not catching up to it. You are moving at the rate of your transformation. And that has the appearance of being still. But actually, it's time lordship, right? You're pausing time. And now, how we say, your 24 hours is not Beyonce's 24 hours, right? Your 24 hours is not Dolly Parton's 24 hours, right? So when you see that, that's like an indication that, oh, I can use this time as malleably and as expansively and as flexibly as I really want to. And because I'm moving at the rate of my transformation, I can get a lot more done in this time than anyone will actually be able to notice or account for, unless they too are moving at their rate of transformation, and their rate of transformation is similar to mine, right? So temperance, it's like, no, not lost on me. We have Two of Wands and Ten of Swords at the top of Speak and Listen. And then we have the major arcanas of the Hierophant and the Temperance at the bottom as the ground of the Speak and Listen, right? So once you recognize that you have to go to a bad place to do a good thing, right? That you have to heal yourself. The next most intelligent thing you can do is figure out a healthy pace so that you don't burn yourself out, or so that you don't overextend yourself, or so that you don't bite off more than you can chew. And then in due timing, when you actually pace yourself at the rate of your transformation, you're going to find that there's a lot more time and space for you to do what you need to do, even if on the outside it doesn't look like it should be that way. For you, as a Time Lord, you have figured out how to expand and collapse your experience to form around what you require to do, and also obviously what you need to do if existence lets you do it, because existence affirms through positive synchronicity, allows through neutral, and denies through negative. Last but not least, we have our key cards. We'll start with the Skelton Key. Of course, once again, the Wands, Five of Wands, which I believe is Kunzite. Yes, it's Kunzite in this deck. So, of course, Skeleton Key is like, are you with the right people at the right time in the right place, right? I always say Five of Wands is either teamwork makes the dream work, or too many cooks in the kitchen. So if it's teamwork makes the dream work, it's everybody in the team is playing their role in their lane, being themselves, right? If it's too many cooks in the kitchen, people are projecting overextending, right? Like it's one thing. And also there's a quality here too, where you just have to be honest about whether you've outgrown something. Okay. Because like if you're nitpicking someone all the time, that might be a sign that like you're no longer growing at the same rate of transformation, right? It's not a crime for someone to have their preferences or their habits. But if you find that it's irritating you all the time, that's about you. right? Now, if it's something you announce to them and say to them and they ignore it, that's also on you. But that's a different kind of thing that I'm talking about. I'm talking about things like, oh my God, like, why don't you ever do the dishes right after you use them? Right? Some people do that. They do every dish after they use it. And some people wait for all the dishes at the end and they do the dishes. Right? So if you just know that that's how someone likes to operate, and yet you're making it a problem of how you relate to them, that's your problem. That's not their problem, right? Their problem is when you said, this is who I am, these are what I require, don't come into relationship with me unless you do these things. And then the person hears that, affirms they will do that, and then proceeds not to. That becomes both a Yell problem because they're lying and you're accepting the lie. Okay. So there's a quality with Five of Wands where it's like, keep it a buck with the community. Because if the community is keeping it a buck, then it's going to be efficient. And if the community is not keeping it a buck or doing too much or not minding their business, then you're going to feel mired down by everybody's opinion and everybody's perspective and everybody's desires because they're not going to be aligned. So the skeleton key is very much like do the work with the right people. Okay. The right people and the rightest people at your disposal. Okay. Because it's not your job to know everybody you think you need to know to get a role done. It's your job to work with who you do know in the direction of what you prefer to do to the best of your ability. And then existence will affirm, allow, or deny based on whether you're in right timing. Right timing means is it sustainable or not? And then, of course, are you at the right pacing? Okay. And actually, oh my God, where is it? I'll take a picture of it and post it. But I was saying, oh, I don't think I have to have my Zoom open. I'm going to go open my little notes real quick. So you may not be able to see me for a second, but when I read this note I wrote a long time ago and I reread it, I was like, thanks, old girl, on you for giving me that advice. Okay. But I wrote, here we go. It was day 20 of changing core beliefs, which is a exercise that Bajar presents that you can do for 30, 60, or 90 days. So this is day 20 of my 90 days, right? I wrote this on January 10th, 2021. I wrote, core belief is that there is no dormancy in love. There are only frequencies and dimensions of it. All that you discover about love you extend from inside of yourself. There's no comparison to anyone else. There's just the love you allow yourself to feel. The only way to experience love of the most profound nature is to be willing to be more of yourself by being most honest with yourself. You're more than enough for all that you require to feel. There isn't even one way to live within one existence. And this is the line that I really sent me. I said, everything you need can and will be experienced by the iteration of you that most requires it when that iteration of you most requires it. All right. So again, everything you need can and will be experienced by the iteration of you that most requires it when that iteration of you most requires it. Okay. So once again, pacing. But also when I read that, I was like, that's right. Like the Sanyu that needs to be deeply in love, deeply happy in relationship is just a different iteration of myself. And all that I can do to support that version of me is to continue to love myself and to do the things that I love with whom I love, where I love it as often as I can. Right. So there's a quality in trusting that if it's a desire that I have, because Wands is about aspirations, personal development, desires, if that's a desire that I have, then obviously existence isn't the sick fuck that isn't going to give the iteration of myself that most requires that desire what they need, right? If it's not me, if I go to bed and I don't feel I'm in that relationship, then it's not me, which means I'm just passing the baton of my identity and my desires to me of next morning, me of next week, me of next month, me of next year. And one of those bitches is going to be getting the dick and the love. I hope no one I am related to watches this. Okay, bye. Now, so Five of Wands, when we read that, it's just the skeleton key, right? But when we're reading it across with the Two of Wands and the Ten of Swords, right? There's a conflict there, right? Two of Wands desires to take an action. And Ten of Swords is at its best willing to do the dirty work of saying the things people don't want to hear or doing the things that people don't want to do. But if the Ten of Swords isn't aligned because the Five of Wands isn't aligned, then it's resistance to the inevitable, right? And then it's like, I always say with the Ten of Swords, it's like when you are in a time and space in human history where you have gangrene and we didn't have the equipment or the surgery to help you, and it's like it's your leg or it's your life. Right now, if Ten of Swords is reversed, you let the gangrene go too far. Now it's not just your leg, it's your leg and your thigh. It's your leg and your thigh and half an arm, you know? So it's like the sooner you address the circumstances communally and personally, because we do have swords between two wands, okay? So it's like the personal is on all sides. It's on the onslaught of community and right community and people and who you're aligned with and human beings and society and all these ideas. So there's a quality here where it's like use your head to give yourself less to think about by allowing those who are actually aligned with what you prefer to do to be the ones who you are in relationship with. It's as simple as that. Now our keystone, which also doesn't want to change, is oh, the Seven of Cups and sapphires, darling, darling. So the Seven of Cups. When am I going to find the fucking sweet spot with this lighting? But I think of Seven of Cups as take your choice now. You have so many options and you're suffering from choice paralysis. You're afraid to make the wrong choice. You're afraid to make a choice because you don't trust yourself emotionally, right? Seven of Cups is like, I need toothpaste. I walk into a store, there's 50 types of toothpaste. I leave with no toothpaste. But it's like you need to know what the bottom line is with the Seven of Cups. And what we know in the Rider Waite is that you have seven options. They all look kind of interesting, personally. Now, if you choose one and it's not the right cup, whatever, what is it like? Which I'm trying to remember which Indiana Jones it is when he doesn't drink from Jesus' humble cup and he turns into like a skeleton and withers away. So sometimes we're afraid of choosing the wrong cup because we think that the wrong choice will kill us, right? Or that it will end our happiness, our ego association, our idea of our identity or whatever. Like as if there's a choice you can make that will unmake you. Okay. But we know that what is created cannot be destroyed. So it's not like you can be destroyed by any choices you make. You can be transformed, you can be changed, you can be dragged, but you cannot be unmade. So when I see that Seven of Cups as the keystone, it's like keep choosing in the direction of your highest excitement. Then existence will affirm through positive synchronicity, allow through neutral synchronicity, or deny through negative synchronicity, and then choose from your highest excitement in the direction of your highest excitement. And then existence will affirm, allow, deny. Like that process never ends, right? And even a master is choosing what they love the most, right? Do I love my peace the most? Or do I love my time the most? Or do I love my service the most? Or do I love myself the most? Or do I love the world the most? You're still choosing. You're just choosing from great things, right? So in a negatively polarized world, you're like, what do I hate the least? In a neutrally polarized world, you're like, what? I'm just going to try and learn through osmosis. I'm just going to do this thing and figure it out. And then in a positively polarized world, what do I love the most? And even if you love that thing 1% more, 5% more, you got to validate it by moving in the direction of that thing. If it, and when it ever ceases to be something that loves you back, that will become evident because you will no longer have that sense or that feeling in relationship with that person, place, location, behavior thing. So what we see for March is like, well, one, we have some pretty demanding major arcana. I'm not going to say that Hierophant and Temperance aren't going to ride your ass. I do think they're riders, okay? But I also think that there's the excitement of alignment that Two of Wands promises, right? The excitement of knowing instead of just imagining or wondering or thinking. And then that Ten of Swords is like surviving the worst, which is great because we are resilient and we can come up from the bottom, okay? Knock down 9, but get up 10. And then the Five of Wands and that Seven of Cups there are just like also like, look, choosing is not the fucking end of the world. Choosing friends, choosing lovers, choosing chosen family, choosing community, choosing colleagues, like just choose in the most aligned way you can. And then if for whatever reason you didn't choose well, choose another cup, choose another community, choose another job, choose another place, choose another lover, choose another way to show up as yourself. Because it's only the experience, as I read out of my thing, that's going to provide you with a sense of like the circumstances and experience being what gives you a sense of perspective, right? And the perspective then is what helps you decide what the cause and what the effects are, right? So you need enough experience that you have enough perspective to understand the difference between cause and effect. And obviously, the epicenter of cause and effect in your life is you. So you also have to own who you're showing up as. And if you're happy and you're showing up in a way that makes you happy and is also producing the results that you want, that's one's alignment, right? That's equally yoked. But if you are unhappy, but the results look like, but your life looks spectacular and you're in the Whitney Houston, Robin Williams, Amy Winehouse category of life, okay? Or if you're super happy with yourself, but the world thinks you're garbage can, like Trump, okay? Or like Hitler or Vance or any of these motherfuckers, right? So you want to be equally yoked. You want to know who you are and have the world reflect that back to you. That's 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 the goal, okay? Existentially. So thanks for being here, monthly readers. Join my Patreon. It's like, what else do I gotta say? Or my Substack, or whatever. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Say what you want to do out in the world that you're holding yourself back from. What is your Two of Wands? Okay, because that's the first. That's the first thing, and that's also the first card that popped out the deck. And it's selenite, in case you were wondering. Selenite, diamond, smoky quartz, rose quartz, kunzonite, and sapphire. Pinks, blues, clears. Okay. Pinks, heart, green cider, blues, okay, and clears the whole system. That is your reading. Goodbye, monthly readers, YouTubers.